All these voices. All these voices. All these things you can't explain. All these painful memories. They keep haunting you and daunting me. It's just the ghost of you and me. It's just the smoke and gasoline. It's just the ghost of you and me. Of you and me. All these whispers. All these footsteps in the rain. All these shadows in my mind. With my reflection I can't find. It's just the ghost of you and me. It's just the smoke and gasoline. It's just the ghost of you and me. Of you and me. Don't let them take you away. Don't let them bring you down inside. It's just the mirrors in your mind. Don't let them bring you down.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Staring into the Abyss. I'm your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and with me as always, old boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good, and good afternoon, misfits, sugar ladies, and demon hunters. I'm doing pretty good, brother. How are you?
I am well. Now, everybody knows that we did a show last week on demons, and we tried to kind of nail down the whole subject, and we did a lot of research, but like I said last week, there's a whole lot of different storylines here. There's a lot of different versions of it. So I thought this week would be a really cool thing if we brought in somebody who might be able to give us a little bit better knowledge on the subject. So that's what we've done. We have with us today a Satanist from the UK, Nigel Nightbreed. How you doing, Nigel? Nice to talk to you.
I'm fantastic, thank you. Nice to speak.
What's up, Nigel?
I'm good, mate.
Now, Nigel, I would like, if you would, to have you share a little bit of your knowledge with the audience on the subject of demons.
Okay, so demons from a satanic viewpoint is, unless you are theistic, which I'm not, is a metaphorical term. For me, demons would be an infliction. They would be something that would inflict your life. Maybe as a metaphorical term, a demon would be something like illness, a mental, infliction. It could be anything that brings grief to your life. As a Laveyan, which I don't really like the term Laveyan, because I would probably just stick to the term Satanist. There is no supernatural. So demons are metaphorical. They are a metaphor for inflictions. They are metaphors for bad things. Maybe from a theistic viewpoint, they would be real entities. But once again, being a Laveyan, that's not the case. It would be a metaphorical term.
That's very interesting to me, because I honestly didn't expect that. I expected, being a Satanist, that you would be into worshiping the demons and everything like that. So since you're not, and since I was totally wrong on that, which is fine, that's great, that's how I learned. If you would, can you explain a little bit to our audience on the belief systems of the Satanist and the Laveyan Satanist, and basically what you believe in and what you stand for.
I personally don't represent any group. I'm an individual. I follow tenets of the Satanic Bible by Anton LaVey. First and foremost, as a Satanist, your ground belief would be atheism. There is a complete atheist belief. There is no such thing as the devil. There is no horned red man that lives in a hot fiery place underground that will punish you for your sins. There is no all-knowing God. You are an individual. You are born, you die. That's the end of it. And the important part is the here and now. Heaven and hell are here, right now. You are living in that dichotomy. Heaven is seeing your child smile. Hell is losing that same child to a disease. The Satanism under the Laveyan terms would be a philosophy. It's a life philosophy. It's a set of rules, but it's, in general, it's an individual case basis of how you understand that book. A lot of people will probably get it misconstrued, that when they hear the word Satanist, they probably, group you in with the theistic Satanists, the Luciferians, which are obviously theistic. They believe in a specific entity, that it's a reality, along with demons, along with gods. Specifically the Luciferians, they believe obviously in the story of Lucifer. Theistic Satanists, some are more in the direction of Enki, which would be a Babylonian god. But as a Laveyan, which once again I don't really like the term Laveyan, because Satanism is Satanism. It's not devil worship. Your ground base is atheism.
So basically, if I'm understanding this correctly, Laveyan Satanism doesn't actually believe in Satan. Is that correct?
No, not at all. We don't believe in Satan at all.
So it's actually just atheism then. With like a form of philosophy of behavior.
Yeah. There's a philosophical viewpoint, which is Satanism, but your ground base is atheism. We probably Gilmore describes what you would call I-theism, which is a philosophical viewpoint. It's a semantics term of I am God. I am my own God. I am my own creator by being. Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. So, in that structure, I am the creator of my reality. I am the creator of everything that is around me by being. Once I'm dead, I'm dead. That's it. That's the end. There's no afterlife. There's no reincarnation. The here and now is important. So, it is a philosophical viewpoint, yeah, more than it is a religious viewpoint.
Luciferians are, see, now people don't get this. Now, I do know a lot about Luciferians because my friend was one, and I actually dabbled in Luciferian. They actually do believe in Satan. And
they believe in Lucifer.
Yeah, Lucifer, or Satan, or Lucifer, or the morning star, whatever his many names are. But he's not a like, people need to get this fantasy that he's a red demon with a pitchfork and he stabs everybody. He's not. He actually was the most beautiful demon, angel in heaven. He's actually not a demon. He's a fallen angel. There's a difference between that. But we did worship the devil, and see that this is where I'm gonna, like where James is. Where at one time I used to be different. I've seen things that you probably think I would be crazy if I told you. I used to follow Crowley. You know who Lester Crowley is. So, but I
before we go any further though.
Yeah, go ahead, brother.
There's a moniker put on Aleister Crowley that is really quite wrong.
Yeah.
A lot of people expound that Aleister Crowley was a Satanist. Aleister Crowley was nothing of the sort. Aleister Crowley had nothing to do with Satanism in any way, shape or form. Aleister Crowley was a Thelemite. His belief system was Thelema.
Yeah, he was actually in the Golden Dawn, and he was actually in the church, and he got kicked out for bringing sex and magic into the the religion. So, yeah, I know a lot about Crowley.
His parents were highly religious. They were highly religious.
Oh yeah.
They were part of the Plymouth Brethren, which is a fire and brimstone, a very secular cult. But the misnomer that he was something to do with Satanism is the name that his mother gave him, which was the Beast, 666. She thought he was the devil incarnate because of his disobedience. But to call Crowley a Satanist is quite wrong. I think also when just a second ago we was talking about the devil, and you saying about the devil being this red guy that lives with the horns and stuff. That kind of vision of what Satan is not mentioned within any of the Abrahamic religion. That's not how he's described in any way, shape or form. That probably comes more from like Paradise Lost, Milton, and those kind of like 17th century kind of romanticist kind of writers that wrote about him, and that's how he was. Probably a bit older, There's some, it's probably a Christian view on the pagan gods, the horned god, some of the Babylonian, Sumerian, Egyptian gods, that they probably see that kind of horned guy, the strong horned guy, and they're like, that's Satan, that's the devil. But Satan as a word is just Hebrew for adversary. It would just be anybody that was an adversary to the Christian, Jewish, concept.
Yeah, it's also spelled Satan. It means deceiver, and it doesn't even mean Lucifer. And they even say they might be even different altogether. But now where they got the devil thing was from Dante's Inferno in the Catholic Church. Yeah.
John Milton, Paradise Lost. Yeah, they're the kind of. But if you look at like biblical representations of Satan, it's a lot of them could be put down to certain kings that were at the time. It was described quite in depthly as a serpent. The devil figure that most people would believe Satan to be, Shaitan, whatever you want to call him. It comes from a lot later period. Lucifer in itself is a fallen angel. Luciferians can be theistic or atheistic. Luciferians can believe that there is this actual entity, but they don't see him as a god. They see him as a friend. They see him as a confidant. They see him as somebody that will guide them. it's a very different thing from Satanism.
How could Luciferians be atheistic as well? That kind of confuses me, because the whole idea of being a Luciferian is that you worship Lucifer, correct?
In all aspects, let's be honest, within all aspects of religious belief, in all aspects, you can use stories. You can use the enlightenment of what you read as a archetype for how you live your life. True Luciferians would be theistic, because they have to believe in that Judeo-Christian God. They have to believe in it to believe that there is an actual entity as Lucifer. As a Satanist, I can look at the Luciferian story and take positives from it. I can take, I can read the stories and I can be quite, enamoured by them. I can find good things within it. I can take bad things from it. I can learn a lesson by it. So, it's once again, it's the personal, individual belief of many people is as widespread as the oceans. You can find Christians that have their own semantic description of what God is. It's a personal belief system. And most of them are. Most of them would be theistic.
Isn't there a third group of Satanists too, El? I heard about that. Isn't that the more Hollywood one, and kind of like that gets into that whole... I wouldn't even consider them Satanists, though.
No.
That like Illuminati crap?
No, neither would I. I would consider Satanism as the philosophy laid down by Anton LaVey. You do have theistic Satanism, which, as I say, would probably lean a little bit more towards the Enki story. They believe in once again, they don't actually believe, if I'm right in saying so, I don't think that they actually believe in a god. I believe that they believe that there is just one entity called Enki, which would be an all-encompassing deity. It's kind of misanthropic. It's probably what we would describe as devil worshippers. They are probably, their moral structure is, I don't know. Yeah, I'm in no way to judge, but I'd probably expect that their moral structure would be probably a little bit more on the darker side. We don't believe in that moral structure. We have our own personal moral structure. We have a set of rules to live by. We have the satanic statements. We have the satanic rules. We have satanic sins. As long as you live within them guidelines, you're probably would be classed as a Satanist.
I think that's a lot of where the confusion is. You know what I mean? With society as a whole. Because when people hear the term Satanist, they don't realize that there is atheistic Satanism and theistic Satanism. They don't realize that there's Luciferians, and that's different than Satanism. And then, like, when Old Boy was talking about the Illuminati, the majority of that is demon worship and Baal worship. You know what I mean? That goes on with those secret societies and that kind of stuff. So it's a lot of... That's what I was trying to say in the beginning of the show. That's what we ran into with the last episode on demons. Is that there's just so many different sects and different ways to look at this. And even within, like, a term like Satanism, right? Even within that one group, you have multiple splinter groups that believe totally different stuff. And it's very, very confusing and very hard to kind of pin down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's a reflection of the human nature. There's sects and cults and diversity within most human nature. You know, Christians have a huge amount of cults, sects within their belief. What one person reads from their book can be, you know, translated as one thing, and then the next man can read it and translate it itself. I think that the viewpoint of Satanism in general, by a lot of people, would be that you was a devil worshipper, that you believe that you worship this entity that is Satan. But Satan's a metaphorical analogy for the self, for the individual. That's my perception of it. I think also someone like Laveyan probably used it because it's contentious. There's a beautiful amount of showmanship within it. You know, it's you know, there's a beautiful thing to be representing something that is contentious. You know, that is so different.
I'm glad you brought Laveyan up. So what do you think about the story about when he died? You heard about that on YouTube, right? You know, he had a nemesis that was a preacher that he would go back and forth.
He made a deathbed confession.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you really look at it, the man died of a pulmonary edema. So if you look to see what pulmonary edema is, I doubt very much the man was actually saying anything in any way, shape or form, because the infliction that he died from renders you not being able to talk. So, but you know, once again, your detractors are always going to try and, you know, throw mud on.
True.
You know, they're going to throw mud on it. So let them believe what they wish. It's their life. It's their belief. Let them believe. You know, that's why we you know, we accept the moniker of scapegoats. I'm in no way going to confront or argue with anybody what they believe. Let them believe it. It's their own stupidity. If that's how they believe it, then so be it. It still doesn't change the philosophy. It still doesn't change the, you know, the outlook.
What's your take on the play? You want to explain to the listeners who he was, because some people don't know who he is. So, you know, because I figured you probably do know a lot about him.
Laveyan was a lion tamer, a carny. You know, he was a keyboard player. You know, he was an individual that took a rounded view of certain philosophies and created a philosophical viewpoint that, for myself and for a lot of Satanists, find is what I would call an affirmation more than it is an indoctrination. When you read the Satanic Bible as a Satanist, you read the Satanic Bible, and every time you turn a page and you read another page, there is nothing in it that you wouldn't read that you're like, that's how I live my life already. That's how I view everything. It just affirms that there is, you know, there is this thing that you're doing with your life, that you believe, you know, your landscape is there. You know, it just affirms it. You know, many Satanists say that when they read the Satanic Bible, they get halfway through their book and they're like, where's this been all my life? Where has this been? I agree with every single page that's in it. I agree with it all. And you know, it's, once again, it's an affirmation. It's not a, you know, it's not an indoctrination. That's against the tenets of being a Satanist. You shouldn't be indoctrinating anybody. I go nowhere and tell anybody that they should be a Satanist. I go nowhere and force the issue. I don't care. whether anybody else is a Satanist or not. I really don't. It's why I genuinely don't join a group. I've never been a member of any of the sects of Satanism. It's not about being in a group. It's not about joining a group. It's about being an individual and about being, you know, self-sufficient.
Do the Luciferians use the same satanic Bible that the Satanists use, or do they have their own book? I'm interested in that, just the aspect of it, of whether you guys are both reading the same book and taking completely different takes on it.
No. I would say that the Luciferians would revert back to the Bible. They would revert to the Bible. They would, you know, I suppose it's a Gnosticism. You know, it's a knowing. You know, that they get through reading the Bible, that this character Lucifer is who they would rather align themselves with.
See, to me, that just makes no sense. You know what I mean? Why? I mean, if they had, like, say if Luciferians read the Satanic Bible and that's what they followed, then I could say, okay, well, maybe they have a different book, then I can understand why they might have a different view. But if they're reading the Bible that I read, then I wonder what would cause a person to read that Bible and say, hey, the guy that loses the battle, that's who I want to join. You know what I mean? That just, to me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
There's probably other books that they take, I don't know, guidance from. Probably some of the grimoires, the Grimorium Verum, which is the grimoire of truth, the Grand Grimoire, probably, you know, those books that they would go to and they would look for inspiration from. But you know, not being a Luciferian myself, I personally can't comment on why they follow that. You know, once again, I suppose it's an anti-Christian belief. It's that thing of reading the Bible and seeing stuff within the Bible that they disagree with, and that they obviously find this affiliation with the story of Lucifer being cast down, and you know, and using that as their basis for their belief. Some of the groups, Luciferian groups, you know, that maybe the Temple of Black Light, or I don't know too much about, and Temple of Set. They probably have a deeper knowledge of why they head towards the Luciferian thing. As I say, personally, as a atheist at a base level, I think they're fantastic stories. I think it's beautiful. I think they're beautifully written. I think that they're great stories. But to actually believe that that's a real entity, I can't understand that myself either.
Well,
Now,
isn't the belief?
The Grimoire of Truth is, and that you mentioned, and a couple of those other grimoires, I'm not going to go like into way detail on them, because I'm sure they're not your books, so you don't really know them in and out. But the one question I have about those, you probably can't answer for me. Are those theistic books as well, or are those more like an atheistic form, or just like
they're theistic.
They're theistic. Okay, that's what I thought.
They would be, but once again, it's a perception of how you read these things. I've read grimoires. I would never ever read a grimoire and believe that, you know, there is this entity. I wouldn't read it as literal truth. I would read it and see it as a story. I would read it as a, you know, a a written piece of literature. But if you're a theistic, have a theistic belief, then obviously you would read them, and you know that's the truth. That's the reality. That's a a real a real living embodiment of what you believe.
Very true. Well, another thing isn't a lot of it, is it like anything, like you said, anti-Christian, anything that's against God, pretty much some people adopt in that religion. And that's what I've also seen, especially here in America, is a lot of people, I see you said they hate God, hate God, or they worship Satan. They always have something to say about the other side, and it's not very pleasant. So that's what I'm saying. A lot of them say it's anything that's opposite to a Christian. And I never understood that, because then you're still believing then there's God and the devil. And that's basically what they're basically admitting.
Well, if you take it in that way, they're just choosing to be on the other team. and that's it. They're choosing to be on the other team. They're choosing to be, in my perception, that being a Luciferian, some way you still have to believe that there's a God, because obviously you're being the antithesis of God. So
very true, very true. So, but I mean, like, I believe that exists. I mean, I think some of it's exaggerated, because just like Christians, we have different sets. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, and they all have their different tweaked versions of the Bible. Jews, they don't even believe Jesus existed. Majority of them. Then you have judicial Jews who do believe in Jesus. See, we have our own issues sometimes. So, and then you got Muslims and Buddhists, but in some ways, majority of them all believe in some kind of entity. In the end, and so.
I think the only one there that I would probably not group in with the Abrahamic belief, Abrahamic belief being those that believe in the God of Abraham, which would be Jews, Christians, and Muslims, would be Buddhists, because it's fact that Buddha actually existed. It's a fact that there was a man that was the Buddha. I don't specifically believe in the tenets of Buddhism, unless it's, once again, it's a metaphorical representation of it. If we talk about something like reincarnation, if you believe that reincarnation means that you will die, you will be put into the ground, you will rot, the worms will eat your bones and your flesh, the birds will eat the worms, a cat will eat the bird, so in essence, metaphorically, you will be reincarnated as a bird, or as a, as nature, as a cycle, then yeah, it's got quite a beautiful concept, yeah. But if you believe the literal thing, that you will be reincarnated, that you have a soul, and that you will become a bird, and you will, you'll be reincarnated, judged on your crimes or your good, what you did that was good. I can't believe that. As far as the Abrahamic religions go, within each of them there is huge amount of diversity and sects, all believe in different things. Within the Jews, there's the ascetic Jews that are, the Torah is the, to live by. Within Christianity, as you say, you have Jehovah's Witnesses, all the way through to Baptists, Presbyterians, the Jains, and within Islam you have, the sects of Islam. So there's, I see that as a, as just a reflection of humans. We love to group things. We love to interpret things very differently. We love to,
True.
you know, we love to. One man likes to, you know, read a part of the Bible, and another man will read it and have a completely different perspective on it. You know, a lot of groups within these groups cherry pick. You know, they cherry pick and decide what's good and what's bad. They dispute the Old Testament but believe in the New Testament. You know, within Islam, some follow the Quran as gospel and, you know, leave the hadiths to one side or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's a you know, sects are a reflection of the human's way of sectioning things, of grouping things, of translating things, of interpreting things. So, and again, same within what you could call Satanism.
Well, what had made you go this route, though? What did you just start getting into it when you were younger and you decided that's what you wanted to do and that's the way you went? Or how did you all become a Satanist?
One of my parents, my father, was avidly into the occult. Just generally, you know, interested in the whole span of theology, the occult. You know, just, you know, this general thing that everybody kind of like thinks about. You know, it's a very deep thing, and he had a vast collection of books that I own at the moment. My first steps into anything was probably to read about Wicca. You know, I took an interest in Wicca and, you know, read Gardner, Doreen Valiant, you know, took a, you know, deep interest in it. Didn't ever consider myself to be a Wiccan, but opening the door for using that and having a interest in mythology was never ever like, I was never ever told not to do it. I was always like, you know, read the books, you know, look at them, you know, blah blah blah. As you get older, you involve yourself in things deeper, and then I found Crowley. Probably took a strident steps towards being a bit more of a black flamer. You know, tried some crazy stuff, did the usual that most, well, not most people, but, you know, certain individuals do. I did Ouija boards, spells, I tried deeper magic, but came to the conclusion that it was all just hokum. It was all just a crock. None of it actually worked. Nothing ever happened. Nothing ever manifested itself. Nothing ever, you know, became reality. So I didn't lose interest. I continued reading, and then I noticed that there was a book within the collection that was this black book with red writing on it, and I picked it up, and at first glance of it was kind of like, whoa, like, this looks like this could be really deep. Could this be a good step? Could this be a bad step? And it was obviously the Satanic Bible. Started reading it, and immediately just affirmed everything that I thought already. It affirmed my belief. It affirmed the way that I view life, the philosophical outlook of the book. Just affirmed everything I believed. And I took it to my father. I stood with him and said, I've been reading this. And he was like, I was waiting for you to find that book. I was never going to push that towards you. I was willing to let you have your own path of discovery. But that's the book that I base my worldview on. And since then, that's it. That was how I would describe myself, as a Satanist. I couldn't possibly describe myself as anything else, because I believe you're born to be a Satanist. You don't become a Satanist. You don't just change your mind and just become a Satanist. It affirms your life. It affirms where you're going with your life. So yeah, but probably, I took a deep interest in, Wicca. I took a deep interest in, the devil worship side of stuff, the Crowley, Salemite thing, and just never found any of it to ring true. I never found any of it to, become manifest. I never found any of it to actually work. So finding the Satanic Bible was a door opener. It was just it was actually probably akin to opening a door to a corridor full of doors.
You know what's funny? Everybody says Wiccan. I think everybody starts out that's where I started. Actually, I'll tell you the story a little bit about me. So I never got to do this. I did one show and I was starting. I used to have my own occult. I used to be in a vampire occult at one time, but I just that's where it all started. I always had a fascination with the occult. And my friend thought he was supposedly American vampire or vampiric, whatever you want to say. That's where it started. He actually had a group of people out here. It's crazy. He wrote a book too about Selkar, the Egyptian god, and I won't say his name, but we had at first it was all because of God. Back then in the early 90s and 2000s, that's when goth was, hot chicks, and I used to go to this club called Bar Sinister in Hollywood. It was a goth club, and I was into it, but I started getting deeper into Wiccan and started reading books, and it just wasn't for me. I didn't get involved in that. So I wanted more. I got a lust for power. See, I had to stay away from it because I went opposite, and I started getting into. I was reading, the real Necronomicon, not the one you can get in the bookstore, for $10 at Spencer's or Hot Topic, or the satanic version that they sell on Hot Topic. I would go to these book like Pyramid Book. It was like a specialty store where you could do, spells and stuff, and you had to buy certain books, or I'd get them in the internet. I had a cauldron, and then I finally started getting into the Luciferian part of everything. And now when you said that, that's true. Some people don't see nothing. I did. And I know you might say, oh yeah, you're probably, he's probably crazy. But I did see things. I seen stuff that you would like I said, it changed my opinion because I'll be honest, with the satanic religion, I believe in a lot of it, but I don't follow it. I believe in the eye of the eye for an eye. I believe in it. It would be me, other than the whole part of the bad part of it. I don't believe. I have a kid, and it changed me. But the way I see it is, what I dealt with is, one night I was sitting in my computer chair, and back then it was MySpace. Remember how Facebook is now? MySpace was the big thing then, and I was playing on MySpace. My ex was sound asleep in the other room. My daughter was gone. And when she had a Barbie car next to her room. Well, this Barbie car was going in front of me back and forth for about 20 minutes. So at first I thought maybe, the air kicked on or something. But when I saw the thing go back and forth, it kind of changed my opinion that there's nothing, it's a hoax. And I also seen, I don't know if you ever heard of the story of the man with the black hat. I've seen that guy. I've seen him numerous times. He attacked my ex-wife, who believed in God and didn't believe in that stuff. So when I got involved in it, I was following the devil. I hated God. If you told me anything about God, Christians would come up to me. I'm like, man, you're lucky I'm at work right now. That's how bad it was. It was pretty bad. See, I was a little bit farther. I was and that's why I got out of it, because it was a power trip for me. I liked the fact that I was getting power, and that was wrong. Trust me on that. And I had people around me, under me. I had witches. warlocks, whatever the hell you want to call them. All of them did stuff, and I've seen it. And bad things would happen to people. And it even says it in our Bible that it can happen. It even says in the Christian Bible you can do stuff on that side of it. So, I mean, it is kind of funny. Even our religion even agrees with the same thing, that you can do that, because it happened when Moses, went and threw his staff down. It talks about you can have magic. It even talks it in our own Bible. It even says the dark side can have magic. So they both agree on that part on both sides. So what I'm saying is, what I saw, it maybe, I don't know what I could ever explain. I've seen things that, in my dreams, like with James, his stories, he dreamed them all, bro. Every book he wrote, he gets them in a dream, a recurring dream that happens constantly, over and over, and now he writes them in books. So that's more than just a thing that happens, because I don't dream. I mean, I probably had a dream here once or twice, the same thing, but James reoccurs his dreams to books. So that's what I'm saying. I just think there's something out there, because remember, there's always some kind of truth to every story. It's been exaggerated, but remember that with the Nephilim, the giants, they existed. I believe they did, and I believe there's always truth to some kind of story. So there's always something there, I believe, we don't know. And that's one thing I will say. I believe that there's a side of stuff we'll never know. That if there is stuff that exists, it's impossible to say that it doesn't or it does. There's no proof or proof there it doesn't. See, that's what I'm saying with atheists. They'll say, oh, God doesn't exist, the devil doesn't exist. But then I say, well, prove it. And they'll say, prove it that he does exist. So there's no real win of the argument. So it's just it's basically like you said, you're going to believe in what you're going to believe in, and you're not going to change it. It's basically you're gonna, as long as you follow what you believe and you live a life of what you think is good, that's all that matters. But that's what I was saying. Now you know a little bit about me. But go ahead, James. You got any questions to ask?
No, I think I've pretty much covered everything that I needed to cover. I just want to thank Nigel for coming on and for putting up with us a little bit, you know what I mean? Because I had a whole different idea coming into this of what Satanism was. I didn't realize that there was Luciferians and Satanists, and then there was theistic and atheistic. I learned a lot on this show, so I really appreciate that. I always love to learn. So thank you for coming by, brother.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Nigel. Thank you. You've been always a good guy. I've known this guy for about 4 or 5 years, and we never had any issues. I believe in what I believe in. He actually let me in. He had a group, it was a satanic group, and he got me into it. And I remember I first get him, I'm like, you sure you want me into this, dude? And he's all, no, dude, don't let any... And they were all attacking me, and he stuck up for me. I'll be honest with you. There's people in there saying, get out of here, you believe in God. And he's all, no. And he stuck up for me. He said he could believe whatever he wants. I brought him in. And they said, as long as you don't preach to me. And I'm like, well, what are you doing right now? He didn't say that, but what are you doing to me right now? You're attacking me. I didn't even said anything. I even said, you sure you want me in the group? And Nigel stuck up for me, dude. I mean, don't think that just because I believe in God, he hates me. I mean, he stuck up for me on it. Most people wouldn't do. So absolutely, he does have a different. No,
your belief structure is your belief structure. Everybody has a personal perspective, and as I say again, my belief structure would probably be atheism. My philosophy would be Satanism. And through that, I don't feel that there's any real reason to be this proselytizing preacher. If that's what makes your life turn around, and that's what structures your life, and that's how you live your life, and that's how you want to do it, then you're more than welcome to your belief. I've got no problem with it. But I expect the same in return, and you've always done that. So I was quite happy for you to come into the group to hopefully in some way, as James said, it's all about education, it's all about bettering yourself, it's all about having that open perspective. Whether you believe what the other people believe or you don't is cool, but as long as you keep an open perspective to learn, And
I think that this proves that you can take three guys with three completely different ideas of what God is and completely different belief systems. Okay, I'm a very strong Christian. Old boy is a Christian, but he believes differently than I do. And then you, Nigel, are an atheist with a Satanist philosophy. You can take three people that have way different views, and you can have a civil conversation and learn from each other. And you don't have to fight and argue and call each other names and hate each other. I mean, I'm so sick of seeing that all over our society. And it's refreshing to be able to have a conversation with somebody who doesn't believe the same way I do without it having to be adversarial. You know what I mean?
As we are the adversary of what it is, but that doesn't mean, as I said to you before we started talking, I have a tenet that, you know, I hate everybody equally until proven different. You know, judge everybody on their own, you know, personal merit as they act towards you. And, you know, if we have a cordial conversation and we're going to discuss things, and, you know, this conversation in itself could go a lot deeper. It could go a lot deeper. You know, the atheistic viewpoint I have, I could probably go a lot deeper and, you know, try to dispel what you believe, and, you know, you could argue back. And, you know, the thing that we never really touched on at any point is the actual philosophy of what I believe. And, you know, normally when I start speaking to some quite fervent Christians, that when they actually like listen and they hear, you know, like probably what, you know, the satanic statements, a good majority of them are like, well, it's not as bad as I thought it was. It's not anywhere near what I thought it was. You know, they're quite like, I didn't really realise that your philosophy was on that kind of structure. You know, and it's once again, it's about education. It's about people listening to other people's viewpoints. It's about, you know, it's about people having conversations. And I'm enlightened by conversation. You know, I like a good conversation. That's the whole point of it. You know, it doesn't have to boil down always to trying to crush somebody else's belief.
Well, thank you, brother. I agree with that, and that's what I was saying. Like, he invited me into a total other side, and I held my own. And like I said, he defended me where he could have just destroyed me, and he didn't. And that's what I'm saying. I know that side of it, like I said. But see, James, you know, like I said, he probably thought a different thing. You probably thought a different thing too with James. You know, you know, when I was coming into this, I thought, I don't know what we were going to expect, but I actually expected this to come out of this. So I have my ways. I think things happen for reasons, and I'm glad this show happened because people get to hear. Not everybody is running around worshiping devil, butchering babies in the middle of the night.
That would, you know, that would go against, you know, a lot of the 11 rules. You know, like rule number 9 is do not harm little children. You know, the innocence is innocence. You know, you don't harm children. You know, so if you have a theistic viewpoint that you're going to go against the tenets of God, then yeah, you're giving yourself an excuse to do anything that you so desire without a morality structure. We have a morality structure, you know. There is no real need in the philosophy to be harming anybody. You know, law number 11. When walking in open territory, bother no one. If someone bothers you, ask him to stop. If he doesn't stop, destroy him. There's a moral structure of don't bother anybody. You know, I've got no need to attack anybody. But if you attack me, I'm gonna repay you tenfold. You know, it's a and you know, it's a moral structure. You know, there is a morality to it. We don't need to be, you know, harming anybody. You know. I just, you know, just we don't believe in the turn the other cheek. We believe that, you know, if you strike me on one cheek, mate, I'm going to strike you back. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to be the first to strike you.
Nigel, would you like to? We're almost done with the show, but would you like real quick to run through that list? I mean, you were saying like rule number 9, rule number 11. Do you want to go ahead and run through those real quick so that you can get that onto the show?
Yep, I certainly can. The 11 satanic rules of Earth are as such. Number 1, do not give your opinions or advice unless you are asked. Number 2 would be, do not tell your troubles to others unless you are sure they want to hear them. Number 3 would be, when in another's lair, showing respect, or else do not go there. Number 4 would be, if a guest in your lair annoys you, treat them cruelly and without mercy. Number 5 would be, do not make sexual advances unless you are given a mating signal. Number 6 would be, do not take that which does not belong to you unless it is a burden to the other person and he cries out to be relieved of it. Number 7 would be, acknowledge the power of magic if you have employed it successfully to obtain your desires. If you deny the power of magic, having called upon it with success, you will lose all you have obtained. Number 8 would be, do not complain about anything to which you need not subject yourself. Number 9 would be, do not harm little children. Number 10 would be, do not kill non-human animals unless you are attacked or for food. Number 11 would be, when walking in open territory, bother no one. If someone bothers you, ask him to stop. If he does not stop, destroy him. The 9 satanic statements are, number 1, Satan represents indulgence instead of abstinence. Number 2 is, Satan represents vital existence instead of spiritual pipe dreams. Number 3 would be, Satan represents undefiled wisdom instead of hypocritical self-deceit. Number 4, Satan represents kindness to those who deserve it instead of love wasted on ingrates. Number 5 would be, Satan represents vengeance instead of turning the other cheek. Satan represents responsibility to the responsible instead of concern for psychic vampires. Satan represents man as just another animal, sometimes better, more often worse than those that walk on all fours, who because of his divine, spiritual and intellectual development has become the most vicious animal of all. 8. Satan represents all of the so-called sins, as they all lead to physical, mental or emotional gratification. 9. Satan has been the best friend the church has ever had because it's kept it in business all these years. The satanic sins would be stupidity, pretentiousness, solipsism, self-deceit, herd conformity, lack of perspective, forgetfulness of past orthodoxies, counterproductive pride, and a lack of aesthetics. And outside of that, the only other descriptions that I would give is that satanic magic is not supernatural, it's supernatural. Greater magic would be a cathartic event, it would be a psychodrama, it would be a group of friends coming together to have a, not specifically a group of friends, can be on your own. It can be something that will self-empower you. It will give you something, you know, to make you feel good about yourself. It will empower you to be a better person, to be the epitome of human evolution, to be the best a man can be. And lesser magic would be what I like to use the term self-placidic effect. It's about reprogramming. It's about manipulation. You know, and using it to your advantage. Being a, you know, being self-indulgent. And it's very empowering for myself, you know. I wouldn't ever try to push any of that on anybody else, but when it comes to the satanic, you know, the satanic rules, and I think they're kind of a cool cool philosophy to live your life by.
Not, I hate to say it. Some of it I agree with, and some of it I don't. But it's. I mean, me and James live by the same thing. You come mess with me, I'm going to tell you one thing. If you keep messing with me, I'm going to take care of you. If you come in my house, you were going to take care of you. So I mean, that's kind of similar to what we believe too. And I mean, you're coming to do harm if you're coming in my property. That's the way I look at it. I won't even give you a chance. If you come in my house, there's no stop. You come in my house, it's a little different. But see, we all have different views, but I think I'm kind of more even worse than that. Like I said, if you broke into me and James's house, you're probably not coming back out. There's going to be no warning.
Most definitely, if you come to seek to, unwarrantedly harm me, I'm going to make sure that you don't. That comes from, an opposite viewpoint of what a lot of the Christian tenets hold. If you're struck, turn the other cheek, don't do nothing. Well, no, hell no, that's not going to happen. You come and try and harm my family, you better know that you're making a mistake.
Yep, I agree with that, brother. Yeah, thank you. Got any shout-outs you want to give to anybody or anything? You want anything for Facebook or your DJ things or going on?
Fine. I'm enjoying the sun lately in the UK as it's beautiful, and I'm sitting back. But most of my friends that will listen will know who they are, and I'll be speaking to them very soon anyway. So thank you very much for having me on. Thank you very much for having me here to give a viewpoint. Thank you for being very cordial, and it's great to talk. It's great to have a conversation with people that are at least open-minded to other concepts, even if you don't accept it and you don't want to adopt it, which I hope you don't, because tenet of being a Satanist, he said that I don't care whether you are or you're not. Not in a mean way, but it doesn't matter. But it's nice to have people that are willing to talk and willing to listen and not, make a judgmental statement on it in any way, shape or form.
The way I look at it, brother, you're free to believe what you want to believe. You know what I mean? I love you regardless. You are my brother in Christ, even if you don't believe in Christ, as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean? Either way, you're my brother. And I'm going to love you, and you're free to do what you will and believe what you will, and that in no way affects the way I'm going to feel about you or any kind of regard or respect that I would have for you. You know what I mean? And I think too many Christians don't follow that when they're supposed to. We're not supposed to judge each other. We're supposed to love each other. We let judgment be for the Creator, and let us just love each other and do the best we can to try to somehow get through this crazy ass thing that we call life, exactly. Because the whole thing is a mess. All of it is always a mess, and even the best of us, we're just barely holding on by our fingernails at all times. So the way I look at it, man, thank you very much for being on. I love you, dude. You're a really cool guy. I really enjoyed talking to you, and just thank you. That's all I really have to say to you.
And thank you too. Heaven and hell's right here on earth. Grasp the chaos and be the best you can be.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, James.
Welcome.
Do you have any shout-outs, old boy, before we go?
Yeah, I want to give a shout-out to all our listeners. I want to give a shout-out to Nightbreed for coming on in the UK, London. He actually took his time because it's 8 hours difference there. So it's like later in the night there. But thank you. And you guys, thanks for listening to us. We have another door opening up soon. You guys will find out. I can't wait. All I could say is love your life. You only have one. And you never know what's going to happen. Demon hunters, sugar ladies, and misfits. Love you.
And until we speak again, love many, trust few, and do harm to none. We love you. Bye-bye.